The NHL 24 life cycle is coming to an end, which means NHL 25 is just around the corner, and in this video I want to talk about my personal wish list for NHL 25 before we see the trailer, which is likely to be released in about a month from now. This list is in order from what I would like to see ASAP to stuff that I'm willing to wait a little bit for. One last thing before we begin, for context, I've been playing EA NHL for over a decade now, playing every game mode within that time. But now I would consider myself to be more of a franchise mode player of all things. So keep that in mind as I go over what I would like to see in NHL 25. Okay, let's begin. This is the one thing that a lot of people have been waiting for, including me. Seeing NHL 25 come to PC. NHL hasn't been on PC since 2009, which is also 15 years ago. Now, the reason why EA decided to stop releasing the NHL series on PC is because it wasn't profitable. Given that this was once again 15 years ago, the gaming landscape has definitely changed, with the number of PC gamers now outweighing the number of console players. With that being said, it's more than safe to say that if EA was to release an NHL game on PC in this day and age, it would definitely be profitable. Now, I can assure you that the number of PC players would outweigh the number of console players in this case, since most NHL players, including me, were forced to buy a console to play, which is just plain stupid. I think that they could make a good chunk of change though if they brought it to PC, as there's been a lot of us who've been begging for this feature through Reddit and other forums. And this is not just a small niche group inside the community. It also doesn't make much sense considering that the counterpart EA games like Madden, WWE, PGA, and FIFA are all on PC. Now, the reason I don't think we'll be getting a PC port is because it simply costs too much money and resources to do. Now again, this is why I think it's not coming to PC, but like I've said, I do think this would make a profit, but I don't think it's actually enough for them to consider the risk. If only the game was run by a company who actually cared about the community rather than the profit margins. I am absolutely begging EA to fix the slow-ass menus. For far too long we've had to deal with these frustratingly slow and clunky menus. I'm so serious about this being fixed that yes, this is second on my wish list, and I would go as far to say that if they did this, if I was rating the game out of 10, I would give them an entire point just for fixing this. It feels like we would save hours, if not days of our lives, if they just did this one small thing. Now, I'm not a game designer, but I'm pretty sure this is an easy fix. All they would have to do is remove the transition animations, which take an hour to load. I know it may make the game look less professional, but it's worth it. Or if they can't do that, at least simplify them. There has to be something that can be done. Other games don't have the same slow, leggy menus that EA Sports games have been plagued with. I also want to add here, as a bit of a bonus, I want to see new menu designs. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they seem to be doing a 3-year life cycle on the menus. I believe NHL 19, 20, and 21 had the same menus, but with a different accent color. And NHL 22, 23, and 24 had the same menus, again only with a slightly different accent color and background. I know it's seemingly a small and insignificant thing in the grand scheme of things, but when you're already constantly receiving accusations of copying and pasting the game year after year, having the same menu doesn't help your case. I also want to cope okay. When I open a new NHL, I want to feel like I'm opening a new NHL, and when I see the same menus for the 3rd year in a row, it's hard to feel that way. It's a simple thing, but it truly does go a long way in making the game feel new. Now, thank God, if this trend continues, in theory, we should be getting a new menu this year. But please, scratch this stupid 3-year life cycle thing and provide a new menu each year like you used to do. Up to this point, I haven't really discussed anything gameplay-wise, and that's because as a casual HUT/online player, I don't really have many problems with the gameplay. I mean, yeah, things like AI could always get better, and continual tweaking/bouncing of the gameplay is to be expected. From a gameplay standpoint, I did really enjoy how the game last year felt new. I hope once again they can find a way to do this in some positive manner, but I wouldn't be mad if there was only minor improvements in this department. My biggest gripe with the current makeup of the game stems from how we divide players and skill. I'll start from a gameplay standpoint, which honestly isn't that bad. They've taken strides in making bigger players play differently than smaller players, adding X factors to make star players stick out more, and so on. My problem is that besides having a better shot or being faster, the players don't really separate themselves more than that. When in real life, I feel like so much of the game is dependent on things like hockey IQ or confidence. These two traits are what separates good hockey players from great hockey players and great hockey players from elite or franchise players. If they could accurately implement these two traits, it would be such a big difference, not only in the gameplay but also making franchise mode more realistic and fun. It would be such a big net positive for every game mode. Now, I'll be honest, from a gameplay standpoint, I don't know how hard this would be to implement, or at least the hockey IQ part. I know the game has offensive awareness and defensive awareness, but I don't feel like it does that much if anything. The first step would be essentially overhauling this mechanic. I want defensively unaware players to set up poorly in the defensive zone, leaving their man open and standing in no man's land. And the opposite being, I would want defensively aware players to hound players defensively. be a menace in the corners, and make proper gambles to intercept passes and so on. And the exact same thing in an offensive way as well. I think you get the idea. This would mean scaling individual AI intelligence per player, which again seems quite difficult to do, but I think it would be a huge win for the game if they could do this. The other step was adding confidence, which I think would be a lot easier. If a player makes a good play, they can get hot. Similarly, NBA 2K has this feature. This again would be huge when it comes to separating players from each other, having better players more likely to get hot and worse players more likely to get cold. Like I said, I'm a franchise mode player. If these two traits were transferred to franchise mode, it would be huge. As someone who's played hours upon hours, I can tell you that you start seeing beyond the names and the face shots. Everyone starts feeling like numbers, and not very accurate numbers at that. I believe that confidence and hockey IQ would be a good way to separate players like McDavid from the pack. I want to see McDavid putting up McDavid numbers. Similarly, I don't want to see Ilya Mikheyev on the first line of a team and watch him turn into a point per game player, unless they can show me why he became that player, which smoothly transitions us into in franchise mode, you can have the best goalie in the league put up a below 900 save percentage with a stacked defense and offense. And the next year he puts up a Vezina season with a 920 save percentage before once again putting up a meager below 900 save percentage. This highlights a big problem I have with franchise mode currently. I don't have a problem if McDavid has a bad season, or if my 93 overall goalie has a down year. Similarly, I don't have a problem if my 86 overall center decides he wants to put up a 100+ point season. But what I want is an explanation as to why these things are happening. And no, I don't want to just say it's because of the sim engine. Show me why. As an example, if my 93 overall goalie had a bad season, here are some reasons that would make sense. He was playing the season partly injured, which is something we see quite often in NHL. Players end up saying that they were playing injured, which accounts for their bad performances. Pettersson had an awful playoffs, and then we found out that he was playing with a nagging injury. Other examples are confidence dropping due to bad play, and one bad game leads to another, and before you know it, a goalie has a bad year. Perhaps if they want to implement family dynamic stuff, or just fun what-ifs or hypotheticals, that could explain why players are playing bad. Man, say that my goalie has been battling a coke addiction for all I care, or that he has a Fortnite addiction. I really don't care as long as it gets explained. Randomness and inaccuracies are unavoidable, so why don't we have some fun with the sim and maybe give us some tools to help the players overcome these issues, like sending them to the player assistance program or having a sit-down talk with dialogue options. All of this is really out there, and that's the purpose, to show that we should be willing to have some fun with what ultimately is a video game. Of course, they'll never do some of these things, but they could at least find more realistic PG reasons for why my 97 overall Connor McDavid has decided to start playing like a prime John Scott. Honestly, I could go on and on about every small thing EA could do to make this game better, but that's not what this video is about. It was about the major details, or I guess the minor details, that have big impacts. If we were to see these 4 things implemented into NHL 25, I would be beyond happy. I'd maybe even do a backflip. So this has been my wish list for NHL 25. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and leave a comment letting me know what you want to see in NHL 25. Also make sure to subscribe to see my next video where I plan to talk about how I would like to see HUT reworked as someone who hasn't been able to get into it in years. Until next time, take care of yourselves.